Hello everyone, and welcome back. Got your books, so shall we begin? Some teenagers do not easily give up on their games of It's All Them, even though they may have some insight into its operation. Parents also like to hang on to the "look how tired I have become" when a home situation is particularly uproarious and hostile. However, an effective way of ringing the bell on the games is to hospitalise the adolescent for a brief period, such as a week. This not only underlines the fact that something is wrong at home, but takes the adolescent out of the child-provoking home and sets him in a place which is a supportive environment where he can activate his adult. Then he can begin to learn. At the same time as parents are taught parent, adult, child and directed to come to the parents group. When the adolescent is released from the hospital, he joins the outpatient groups for continued treatment. Are you with me so far, people? Unfortunately, treatment gets off to a bad start, by the way, in which the teenagers walk to treatment. One boy said I was pushed into this group and it hooked my not okay child. I didn't know I was coming until the morning of the day I first came here. We are shoved in here because we are bad, but then you teach us parent, adult, child and we feel better. However, when we go home we are either made fun of or made uncomfortable. When I try to explain things to my old man, when I try to explain things, my old man just cuts it all off with, knock it off with that parent, adult, child crap and do as I say. Now, I do have a question, but it won't get answered because I'm pretty certain this author is no longer alive. And even if he was, I have no way of contacting him. But I'm pretty certain that, although I have to actually no, I say pretty certain. I'm pretty certain that it seems strange that if you don't believe in the parent, adult, child crap as the old man calls it, then why would you send your kid off to a place that deals with that sort of thing? Am I making sense here? Doesn't make sense that people who don't believe in, say, this would send their child to learn this, you know? I would really feel better if I could see that my parents were equally interested, learning what we are learning, if they only didn't come in the same old way. The parents of the boy did not attend the parents' groups in the beginning. They finally were persuaded to do so and were impressed with how quickly the relationship improved at home. That's nice. Some of the most brilliant formulations come from my teenagers. It is as if 8 or 10 computers are processing data in the group with the aim of extracting new meanings. For instance, in one session a teenager said, I think the parent's more interested in the institution of the parent than in the whole individual. Only the adult can understand that my child has feelings which are important too. On another occasion, a teenager stated, I think the thinking part of us is a Johnny come lately. The feeling part of us was there first. I feel this is more encompass. Let's start the sentence again, shall we, people? The feeling part of us was there first. I feel is more encompassing than I think. I think you can back off from, but I feel involves my whole self. Another said, only my adult can honour my father and mother. My child is too mad. Many parents are afraid to trust the adult in the youngsters with hard decisions. One father of a teenage daughter said, when she was 5 and played with a razor, I had to take it away from her. Now you see her playing with another kind of razor, and what do you say? Go ahead and play with it? The difference is that at 5 she did not have the data to comprehend fully the possible fatal consequences of cutting herself with the razor. But at 14 a teenager has or can have sufficient data to understand all kinds of consequences. That is, if the parents have been busy for the years acquainting him with values, realities, the importance of people, and his own worth. Trusting the adult is the only constructive way to confront the many anxiety-provoking pronouncements a teenager can bring home. If the teenager daughter comes home and announces woefully, I'm pregnant, it probably will knock the needles of the parent-adult-child seismograph. Admittedly, that is a shock. I imagine when a teenage daughter is pregnant, but you know what? Teenage pregnancy is what actually keeps the population stable. I know, it's ironic, isn't it? everyone tries to hide teenage pregnancies. I mean, there's a lot less stigma about it now, thank God. But in the old days, there was a massive stigma. I mean, massive. I mean, most people probably know this already. But I guarantee most people know of a couple who would suddenly randomly have a child unexpectedly, or they would have a daughter who suddenly just disappeared one day. The shame with teenage pregnancy. Which ironically is what kept society going, or kept the population stable. And now teenage pregnancy is, well, the numbers are a lot lower than what they used to be, I know that much. And we are now having a population crisis. Ironic really. But it's for the best though. Teenagers shouldn't be having kids in my opinion. I mean, you should be enjoying yourself at that age, I think. And at that age, you're not really, I don't think anyone's really mature enough to really know what they're doing when they say, even if they did consent to having a child, you know? I just think that people should be allowed to enjoy themselves first before they settle down. The parent and the parents will rise up in great indignation and judgment. The child will be tearful and sad, another failure, and angry. How could you do this to us? And guilty, as the internal parent whips the child with his disapproval. It's a sad reality that teenagers, despite not always being mentally prepared for sex, will engage in it. And you can tell them not to do it as much as you like. You can whip up fear into them of maybe define punishment or maybe your own punishment. They're still going to do it. Because these are natural urges that we have, and human beings haven't really learned to control them yet. So really, when you have this situation, the best thing you can do is just give them the facts. Just tell them how to be careful. And most importantly, you tell them, okay, that if they don't feel comfortable doing anything like that, then they do not have to do it. Because too often, okay, you hear stories where one teenager said to another, well, if you loved me, you'd have sex with me. And then they do because they feel guilted into it or pressured. Okay? The most important thing you can teach your child is consent, really. Make sure they actually do want to do the thing and they're not just doing it for peer pressure. Actually, I'll say it's more important than anything ever nowadays that you teach them, especially with how social media plays a part in it and how cyberbullying is a thing now. And now there's less stigma around teenage pregnancy. You can have these conversations. You can tell your kids, yeah, I understand you're going to be doing that thing, but obviously I'd rather you didn't. But if you do it, just make sure you actually want to. Don't just do it because you feel you have to. On with the book. What in the parents will meet their daughter's announcement? If the parent and child stand wringing their hands, one might say the adult is out boiling water or figuring out what to do. The adult can determine what part of the parent and child can be externalized as constructive data and still contribute something to the daughter's resources for handling this difficult situation. One of the most powerful contributions to inner strength is for the daughter to see her parents struggle with their own desperate feelings and still keep the adult in control. Planning its course on the basis of what is real and what is loving. She will be needing a great deal of this kind of control herself in the months ahead. The adult can process all the realities, the feelings of the parents and of the daughter, the pain of the internal dialogue in both, the extreme not okay replaying in both, the shame on the family which both must bear, the difficulty of doing what has to be done, decision for or against marriage, for or against adoption, in short, the consequences. Now, one thing I will say, there's no shame in teenage pregnancy. It's been happening since the dawn of time. Another thing I will say is that do not force teenagers to marry, okay? That will end in misery for everyone involved. Alright? There's no reason to punish someone, okay, for something which they've done as a teenager for the rest of their lives. Alright? There are solutions to these problems, and with civilized discussion, you can arrive at those conclusions. And I know you're going to say, James, you don't have any kids. And you don't have a pregnant daughter to deal with either. That is very true. But if anything, that makes me more right about this, because it means that I can see things from a neutral perspective. And also remember, your daughter will always be your daughter, or your son will always be your son too, because when there is a teenage pregnancy, the son does get pregnant, but a son in some part has played a part. Because even in these modern times, you still need male and female to make children. Obviously, there are such things such as IVF and such, but I don't see many teenagers dealing with that yet. Anyway, the point is, your children will always be your children. They'll always be yours. So just remember, okay, when they make mistakes, you got to be there for them. Okay, yes, there are conversations to be had and things to be sorted out, but they'll always be your children. Okay, you must never take away the love. Because quite frankly, that's nowadays, you're just as likely to end up in one of those crappy nursing homes. And those places exist for a reason, you know? In many families, an even greater trauma occurs when the daughter announces, I'm going out tonight with John. The book, I'm not going to say the word. The book is saying the M word, the bad one. Or in this case, it should actually say, I'm going out tonight with John. He is an African American. It's an American book, so the term works. There's not much I can say really, other than don't be racist. That's it. Just don't be racist. Let your kids date who they want to date. If it works out, it works out. Actually, in this generation, you would have had that film, Look Who's Coming to Dinner, with Sidney Poitier and Audrey Hepburn, remember? I haven't actually seen it, but I know enough about the film. I know that they're a mixed race couple, and I think at the end it turns out Audrey Hepburn is blind and Spencer Tracy accepts Sidney Poitier as his son-in-law. There's that happy ending. Because, underneath, we're all the same. The social stigma on interracial marriages is usually far more severe than that on premarital pregnancy. Now, ironically, the social stigma was quite big back in those, I know that. Although ironically, it was more for the daughter marrying outside her race than the son. So, misogyny plays a big part in that. As I've seen in old shows, films, and conversations with older people, it was often okay for the son to enter relationships outside of his own kind, but not for the daughter. As I said before, just don't be racist, people, alright? There's no need for it. Some parents have handled this by bellowing, the hell you are. You let me hear you've been even talking to that boy and I'll bash your silly head in. Now, I know I keep stopping and saying things, but 1, do not hit your children. Ever. Secondly, such threats will make your kids hate you. Okay, and there's a good chance that the other family might be very accepting of this mixed relationship. In which case, your kid might just think, you know what? This other family is much more accepting of me than my own. Just think about it, people, alright? I'm not going to judge anyone right now, okay? Because there's plenty of people who will. But I'm not, okay? Because I'm not that kind of person. But just remember, okay? We're all the same, okay? There's no reason to hate other people just because of some perceived difference that doesn't actually exist. Oh, and by the way, if anyone wishes to disagree with this talk so far by saying that pregnant teenage girls should be socially stigmatized or that racism is fine, I will delete your comments, by the way. I know I do encourage people to criticize me sometimes, but if you're going to say stupid like racism is fine or teenage pregnancy should be a shameful thing, I am going to delete your comments. And if it's particularly hurtful, if I feel what you say is particularly hurtful in the comments, I will block you. So just bear that in mind. Oh, just so you know, it may be a free country, but it's my channel. And I decide what comments stay. Actually, YouTube will filter some of the more disturbing ones out for me. But after that, the ones I see, my channel, my choice. Don't like it? Start your own channel. Right, back to the book. In that head, of course, is the knowledge that John is class president. Comes from a good family, is going to college, and in fact is quite ideal along with being black. See, he said it here. Why do you have to say it earlier? Why do you have to use the N-word earlier? There's no need for that. Especially when he could have just said black early. Black, like he does in the later part of this book. Now, admittedly, I know he's not going to say African American because it's a mouthful and he's not going for a word count. I don't know really how many people actually used that term back then. Bear in mind, I'm British, of course. So I'm not going to know any of this. All I know is what I've seen in TV shows and films, which aren't always the best educational tool. Adding to the dilemma is the fact that in high school, she was taught about equality. The class tried to figure out how to end racial prejudice and condemned bigotry. Good class. By handling the transaction with the parents drive the wedge further into the split between reality and the perception of it. There is another way to handle this with the adult, who sees reality not as inimical, but as an essential part of the evaluation of what to do. It takes a person of extraordinary perception and integrity to carry out an adult-adult biracial relationship. The fact is that society does not yet approve. This is bear in mind the context of the book when it was written, by the way. Society does approve now. I remember I was in a mixed race relationship. Didn't work out, but I had it. The worst comments I got was people saying to me, "Oh, I didn't know you was into that, Jim." As if somehow it's a fetish. But I got no hatred for it. Neither do the relatives, neither do most of the church members, despite official pronouncements to the contrary. Someday they may. Nowadays they do. Does this couple have a strong enough adult to build a relationship of dignity under these conditions? Some couples have. Can this one? A realistic view of the consequences is the only way to handle this situation. There is a risk, but there is also a possibility of a strengthened adult preparing itself for full independence. And that appeals where I'm going to leave it because it's quite a long video. And I don't like these being too long, you know? And partly because, you know, my voice is... I feel my voice is slightly going. Makes me feel very thirsty. Anyway, I know admittedly we didn't get through as much tonight as I thought we would, but I have to give my opinions on certain things in this book because as admittedly it is a book written in the 60s. It's very progressive for the time, and it's very progressive now. I'd say in its own way, it's progressive now, despite the use of although some would disagree with me over its use of the N-word, of course. But then again, I'm not affected by that word, so I'm bound to have a different opinion than what other people would. However, I will say this now. If you feel I'm wrong, fair enough, you can criticize me, okay? But if you get personal, or you say something stupidly racist, I'm just going to delete the message and I may block you. Because it is my channel after all. So if you are going to say anything in the comments, just be nice, alright people? Be nice. And remember, it's fine to date outside of your race. It's fine to marry someone from a different race, or religion for that matter. It doesn't matter. Because inside, we are the same. We all have the same ancestors, alright? The only real difference is, you know, the outside bits. But until next time, people, be nice to each other, okay? And look after yourselves, alright? Bye.